10 seconds.
Welcome, everyone. Wednesday, it is October 22nd.
We're back, baby.
We're back, baby. Did they do this without us last week?
I hope they did, and it kind of hurts my feelings.
Yeah,
but
right?
I know they did.
It's like what happens
Were we
when
missed?
What happens when Johnny Carson and Ed
Yes.
McMahon are not around? Did they fill in for them, or just
No one cares.
just ran reruns?
I believe it was Joan Rivers, right, who filled in for Johnny Carson on the rig.
So an enormous amount of talent compared to where we're at right now.
Where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for
God
joining
rest
us.
her soul.
Fox 10 Talks Wednesday afternoon. Me and Trenton. Michael is here, as you just heard, and we got a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do.
You did your homework this time. You're keeping
Try
me
to a
you're
little bit
keeping
on
me
your
humping,
toes.
man.
Right.
Our main man, your main man.
Yes. But the weather, I think, has just been the last
Oh, you want to go
month.
over the weather?
Why not?
Yeah.
We're just
okay.
like, whoa, what's going on?
Well, we're dealing with like one confirmed, another possible lightning strike hitting people.
Humphreys Peak
up
Flagstaff.
north.
Yeah. By Snowball. Pretty wild. And then, of course, in the valley, right, we had some storms move in earlier. Lightning struck a home, 124th Drive. Steve Nielsen's on that one today. But I remember waking up today at because I live over in the West Valley, like the White Tank Mountains, and just looking out my window. First thing I did when I woke up, 2 bolts of lightning. Like right close to the ground.
I hear you.
Nuts.
And I woke up to dark clouds, and I'm like, well, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And then it's just like, really? Are we still doing this?
I think we were all just like, it's why isn't it over
come on.
yet? You know?
And then we were talking today in our news meeting about all the mosquitoes that have popped up since those, what do we have, 4 days in a row of rain? And,
who the hell thought we got mosquitoes in the desert?
Who knew that? And then I know the weeds came with them. I don't know which came first. I've been picking weeds, and then the mosquitoes are picking on me as I pick the weeds. So it's just it's a circle of life.
We got a lot going on today, but if you want to weigh in on the comments, we have Harvard Professor Avi Loeb joining us in just a moment. So when he does, we will take your questions.
31
live.
Atlas is up to some crazy stuff.
3i Atlas.
3i, excuse me.
Yes, we're not at 31 yet. Maybe, but
we may not make it that far, honestly.
It's true. The clock is ticking. There's some really interesting developments.
He gave us an interesting quote about when we may want to step up our vacation date just in case.
Who knew? Fox 10 managers.
We may not make
about
Thanksgiving
to get hit with a lot of requests coming up.
We're going to talk to the great Jennifer Kaplan. She's a big deal around here, a PR pro. I know her from way back in the day when I first got to town in 2006.
Yeah.
And
high profile clients.
She is just grown and grown and grown. One of her young MC from
right,
Bust a Move.
Bust a Move.
He lives here in the Valley. I met him a couple of times. He's one of his clients, and she just keeps on trucking. So she won some big awards. We're going to talk to her about that. And our attorney extraordinaire, Josh Colerud, what's he talking to us about?
So Josh Colerud, he's got the latest on this case in the Supreme Court right now, where the Justice Department wants charges against a man who was hit with a felony pot possession and using marijuana. Does he lose his rights, Second Amendment rights to a firearm? How does that play out? And the implications here with Arizona, since it is legal for medical and recreation use, how does that change, if you're hit with that?
And if I understand right, the Trump administration is pushing this, and it has something to do with the Hunter Biden
It's all
lawsuit.
part of it. All part of it. Yes. Indeed.
So how much is politics?
Right.
How much is really law to protect us?
Yeah.
It's somewhere in there somewhere.
Well, let's go back to
is Avi Loeb here?
Avi Loeb's here.
We're going to there he is.
Avi, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. A lot of things are happening, and
So
we
much.
can get to them. Yeah.
Yes, if we could.
Well, what's the latest, sir? Tell us what's going on.
Well, the International Asteroid Warning System organization decided to monitor 3i Atlas between November 27th and January 27th with a high cadence, coordinating observations throughout the globe. And that is a very positive development because I recommended it. This is an organization that is associated with the United Nations, and I wrote a white paper that I submitted to the United Nations a couple of weeks ago, saying that we should examine interstellar objects that could be a potential threat to Earth. And it would be good to get as much data as possible to check whether the object maneuvers in any suspicious way or perhaps releases mini probes that may arrive at planets like the Earth. And so I'm very glad that data will be collected so we can figure out the nature of this object. In addition, we have additional data that was reported just over the month of September. It was imaged. The object was imaged, and we could see that the previous anti-tail, that was a jet of glow that was pointed towards the sun, 10 times longer than it is wide, first identified clearly by the Hubble Space Telescope on July 21st. It was pointing in the opposite direction to cometary tails that are pushed away from the sun, usually by the radiation pressure and the wind from the sun. This one was a jet pointed towards the sun. It wasn't clear what its nature is, and it appeared during July and August. And then in September, we started seeing, based on new data, the tail, the anti-tail, the jet towards the sun, changing direction away from the sun. So the question is why? And of course, one possibility is that the sun-facing side is releasing ices that evaporate, so they never get to live long enough, those fragments of ice, in order to be pushed behind the object the way that we find in comets. But somehow, as the object got closer to the sun, the nature of the outflow coming off it changed. And that would be a natural origin for that. But there is also a possibility, if you imagine the gases coming out of 3I Atlas having a technological origin, perhaps the object is preparing to do some kind of a maneuver and changes the outflow. I mean, at the moment, obviously, it would be most natural to assume that it's a comet of natural origin, but we should keep our eyes and check what it does. And just before that image was released, or several images were released over the month of September, there was an image from August showing clearly an anti-tail that is pointed towards the sun. So this happened recently. And we're still waiting for an image from the highest resolution image that we can get from the HiRISE camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter that observed the object when it was closest to Mars. It was within 30 million kilometers from Mars on October 2nd, 2025. And the claim is because of the government shutdown, NASA is unable to release those images, which I find surprising because, the principal investigator of that camera, is a professor at the University of Arizona. There should have been a release of the data to the scientific community, irrespective of whether the communications office of NASA is active or not. This is a matter of science, not of public relations. And in fact, it's not good for public relations because the European Space Agency released an inferior data set from a camera they had that was only 13.5 centimeters in diameter, whereas the HiRISE camera is 50 centimeters in diameter. So the HiRISE image is supposed to give us the crispiest image of 3I Atlas with a pixel resolution of 30 kilometers. And that is better by a factor of 3 than the image we received from the Hubble Space Telescope, for example. So I'm really very eager to see it, but we have to wait.
Avi, real quick, if we could talk about a little more with where the object is in relation to, it's almost at the point of reaching its closest point to the sun. And when that date happens, do you have any advice for folks about, what they need to plan on doing? I think that would be good. Yeah.
So on October 21st, that was a couple of days ago, it was in solar conjunction relative to Earth, meaning exactly on the opposite side of the sun. So if if you were looking at the sky that day and seeing the sun up there, you can imagine 3i Atlas just behind it, perfectly behind it, so we can't observe it for sure. And we can't observe it throughout the month of October, actually, because it's so close to the sun, perhaps for a reason. You know, if it was trying to avoid us noticing that it releases mini probes or doing some maneuver, that would be the perfect timing. Because when it comes closest to the sun, it moves at the fastest speed. And then if you want to get a thrust from an engine, that would be the perfect timing, because if you get the thrust in the direction of motion, then you gain the biggest amount of kinetic energy. Or if you do it in the opposite direction, you slow down a spacecraft. And we all know about it. This is called gravitational assist from a massive object like the sun. And so this week is the perfect timing for 3i Atlas to do that. And we can't look at it from Earth. Actually, that is a conjunction that was on 21st of October, but then a week later, 8 days later, it's actually arriving closest to the sun. At that point, it will be at about 203 million kilometers from the sun. It will get of the order of 100 gigawatts of power on its surface from sunlight. So that will be the hottest point in its journey. And we don't know what will happen. If it's a natural comet, it could, for example, disintegrate, break up, evaporate much more. So we can learn much more about it. If, on the other hand, it's technological, it will behave differently. And so we really want to watch it immediately after that. And in the first week of November, there is the JUICE spacecraft that was launched by the European Space Agency that could potentially get close to it and observe it. And then it will be closest to Earth, actually, on December 19th. So it's interesting that, October 29th, when it's closest to the sun, is near Halloween. and December 19th is just a week before Christmas. So the question is, will it deliver anything unusual on those holidays?
Avi, we have to take a quick break. Hopefully you can stick around with us for a couple of minutes. You did mention that for people who want to take a vacation, you better do it before November rolls around. Just, because you never know what's going to happen.
Holidays are out this year. That's what we're getting to.
Avi, stick with us. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. A couple more questions and we'll let you go.
Hey, everybody, sticking around for Fox 10 Talks. We're joined by Harvard Professor Avi Loeb. Always a pleasure to speak with him. But about 3I Atlas and where it is right now, it's been a really fascinating discussion. Now, Avi, one thing we just wanted to get into a little bit, just on some of the scientific community maybe saying that it's premature to start having these discussions, saying this is possibly intelligent life out there doing that, and really trying to kind of cool the jets on any predictions like that. But I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the process of the questions that you're asking and how important that is right now in science.
Yeah, so one thing to realize is that the answer to this question has implications for the future of humanity. And just think about black swan events that the intelligence agencies have to deal with. These are events that are low probability, but the implications could be huge. For example, October 7th was not anticipated by the Israeli intelligence agencies, and lots of people died as a result. And so it's really important to consider seriously events that you think have a low likelihood but would have major implications. And in this case, alien technology could affect the future of all of us. And therefore, we must consider it seriously. Even though we haven't encountered it before, we just don't know how much traffic there is, because only over the past decade we started detecting interstellar objects. We didn't have telescopes that can do that before. And so I suggest that we will monitor each and every interstellar object, especially those that have anomalies. In fact, 3I Atlas has 8 anomalies. It's very big. It's at least 1,000 times more massive than previous interstellar objects. It's also in the plane of the planets around the sun. And, the chance of that happening at random is 1 in 500. It showed the unusual composition, only 4% water. It has nickel with very little iron, the way that the industrial production of nickel alloys appear. It also appeared from the same direction as the WOW signal that was detected in 1977. So there are definitely a lot of reasons for us to consider it seriously. The chance of all of these anomalies coming together is 1 in 10 to the power 16, like each of them has a percent level or less than a percent likelihood, and there are 8 of them. It's really a small probability that we will see all of these anomalies. I'm not saying it's necessarily alien tech, but I do recommend that you take your vacation early rather than later, because our
Maybe
life
too late.
Interesting. Yeah,
I knew Avi was going to get me with some math before
the
we were
PTO
done.
might not be approved by then.
And then he threw that equation at me, and my brain just about exploded. Avi, we got to go real quick. Is there a date we should know, yes or no, on this, or what it is?
Yeah, I believe that by January we should have a good idea about the nature of the object.
Love having you here, Avi Loeb. You're the man.
Harvard Professor Avi Loeb.
Thank
Appreciate
you, sir.
It. Big things to come. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk again in January, hopefully.
Thank you.
Oh, that was a good sound.
Right.
If
No
we're
kidding.
still here, and
yes.
all is well.
Right.
Let's bring in our next guest, Jennifer Kaplan. As I call her, J Cap. Does that still work?
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
We go way back. How about a little hug
Oh,
for the
all right. I
OGs
can do
in
that.
the room?
Trent's
way
not gonna
before
want
Trenton
one?
was even
I
around.
always want one.
Trenton was,
all right.
Hey, thank you.
Have a seat.
All right.
Have a
Appreciate
seat.
it.
Join us. So there's your mic.
All right. Do I get to put those
Do
on
you
as
want?
well?
It kind of looks official if you
Yeah.
if you're ready.
I'm having a bad hair day too. So
Yeah, that's what.
it'll help.
It's not gonna help. I don't know if it's.
It might not help?
It makes mine worse.
Okay. Well, it looks official.
Congrats to you. You won some big awards recently. Well deserved.
Yeah, thank
Talk to me about
you.
that. What, big New York
Wow.
City, the Big Apple.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, PR
Hey, Jen, if
news
you could just introduce yourself a little bit to folks and who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jen Kaplan, and I'm the founder and CEO of Evolve PR and Marketing. We're the largest PR firm here in Arizona. There's 28 people on our staff and a little over 140 clients locally and nationally. So our job is to get our clients exposure via TV, radio, print, online. We work with influencers and just other ways to get them out in the community, outreach with nonprofits and complementing businesses, things like that.
Which I guess has changed a lot over the years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be TV and radio was about the big fish, and now that is really flipped on its head, right?
Well, hence the way we're sitting in this format.
Right. Yeah.
Fox 10
How do you
Talks.
tackle that? I mean, you trying to get clicks and little snippets of things to get attention now?
Yeah. Well, content is really important. And so clients can utilize that content on their social media, on their website. They can use it in a presentation deck. So while we're still working with all of the main media, we recognize that there are other platforms and ways that we need to get our client's name out there. So, but it is all about the content and repurposing that content and using it in other ways. So, and that all establishes them as thought leaders and experts and a go-to in their industry. So, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about like how the approach may have changed in the last few decades with coming in where you again might be the subject matter expert in a certain thing and wanting to get that clear, but at the same time too, not coming off, with the audience today, maybe wanting something a little more authentic, but the time too, with the attention spans where we're all on these things and we're all absorbed in them. And you've only got a few seconds to grab somebody where you don't want it coming off as an infomercial, but you're a human being trying to reach them.
Yeah, totally. Well, first of all, definitely we drive home that it has to be educational and informational, something that the reader or viewer can consume and not have it be something salesy that they can walk away from and feel like they took something. But the way you picked up your phone, I think that the visual and the interactive elements are really important. And I feel like we've even seen that on print and online outlets where they have a video component or something that's a little more visual, because just the static doesn't work anymore. And I do believe that social media has transformed that for us, that just reading, and we've seen some papers go away and go to digital only. And then in layering to the digital, other things like the video, because it's just changed. And so it's important for us to educate our clients on what they can do to really stand out. So the visual elements, maybe they're, bringing something into show or providing footage of something or drone footage, things like that to highlight.
Sorry, Jen, you cater the time to fit whatever platform you want to hit, but it can be many, many platforms. It can be long form. It can be TikTok, 15 seconds.
Yeah, and sometimes the outlet or medium is dictating that to us, where we're just providing the information and the assets in order for that entity, that medium, to be able to consume and use that content.
What's the advice that you give folks where they're going to be like, hey, this is my first, 15 minits of fame.
Exactly.
Maybe
they want to get their business out there.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous about it. Like, how do you coach them to go about it? And what advice can you give folks out there for handling it?
Well, there's a lot of things that we do to set our clients up for success. First of all, we want to, train them and prepare them for the interview and give them talking points. And we also want to make sure that the media is prepared so they're not in a situation where they're thrown off, and making sure that they're comfortable.
That means you got to actually read stuff, Brian.
I was wondering.
You can't just go off half-cocked.
First there's math and now there's reading.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Jen.
So, and we want to make sure, I think you said this a little bit ago, one of you, about the authenticity and being genuine. So it's not just coaching them from a media training perspective, but making sure that we want whoever they're speaking to in whatever platform, that they're going to connect with them. Because at the end of the day, we do want them to get some of that exposure that leads to ticket sales or butts and seats or, drive some volunteers or donations. So we want to make sure that the message gets across in a way that is authentic, that people can connect to. And maybe there is some sort of call to action, but in the right way. That will ultimately, get that awareness that they're looking for.
What if they're not naturally gifted at any of these things? You're going to have to work around that sometimes, right?
Yeah. we tell them you're hopefully not going to get any trick questions, and the information. So,
Keyword hopefully.
We can hopefully, yeah.
But some people are terrified
They
of
are.
getting their message out there, right?
Yeah.
Do you then pivot to find somebody else, or do you keep it tight and short? Where do you go from there?
No, I mean, you're right. There are people who just aren't comfortable doing it. And so we could try and guide them as much as we want. And it could be an epic fail. We want to make sure that the spokesperson and person they're putting out there is going to be the best. So it might not be the owner, or the manager or the person, but and there's other people who would be a lot better at it.
And you almost never know until it's too late, at least
And
in the
some people
beginning.
get in their head
Yeah.
and they psych themselves thinking,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm not going to be good at it. And honestly, those are the people that half the time nail it.
Right.
They were so great, and they just needed to kind of dip their toe and try it and do it. And
Self-consciousness is not always a good thing. Sometimes you just start winging it, and you do great. Don't think.
Don't think about it.
Just go.
Exactly.
We have
Why
a question,
am I here?
I think.
don't even
Would
know why I'm
putting Fox 10 Talks stickers all over the city facilitate a new audience? Little Philosophy asked that one. Great. Yes.
I believe so.
We have T-shirts now too.
We do.
So
Oh.
bumper stickers. What's the natural evolution?
And
It
Brian's
helps
got
find
a
lost animals.
yeah. I think Brian's got a calendar coming out too.
Oh.
It's,
I didn't.
yeah,
I didn't
model
know
with
about
that
puppies?
T-shirt.
that.
Well,
No, it might be a little more risque than that.
yeah.
Let's
yeah.
go back to the old school. How you started this, and then about your award. Excuse me.
Well, I got senior most talkative in high school. My mom said I was born doing PR.
Nice.
Fair enough.
So it was a little bit natural. Studied at ASU, which I'm a big alumni and very involved with the university. Studied communications. And then at 30, started my own business. So my family came from entrepreneurs. My mom calls fear the real 4-letter F word. So it was kind of like, give it a try and see what'll happen.
That's a big thing to take on at 30. Feeling like, do I have the
what the
experience
secret
to
is?
do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make
Fake it till you
it.
make it.
yeah.
Good stuff.
That's
and
what
look
I
at you
say.
making it here. This is you, right?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Is that New York City?
So this was earlier this month, right? In New York City?
This was a couple weeks ago. So PR News is one of the large authorities in our industry. And I got among about another 12 people across the United States, Person of the Year. So that was a pretty humbling and
good stuff.
exciting. And now I'm 21 years into doing it. So the fake it till I make it, I'm a little over that hump.
Oh,
And it feels
good to know.
it feels
It can be done,
good.
Brian.
You can get over that hump. That is good
I
to
know you thought I was 35. It's only been a few years, but
Right.
no, I mean that was pretty incredible, and really recognizing my team, because honestly, it's all of the people that I get to work with that are engaging with the clients and guiding the clients and working with the media and bringing their expertise and their.
Hey, we're back, everybody. Fox 10 Talks. I'm Brian with Trenton and Michael Loeb back there. We have our attorney extraordinaire, Josh Colesrud. Thanks, Josh, for coming in. And we have a hot topic today. This is kind of crazy for anyone who partakes in marijuana, which is now legal in Arizona, and owns a firearm. They may not necessarily go together, perhaps. Tell us about this case, what you know about it, Josh.
Yeah, fascinating case. It's fascinating because of who the parties are, what they're arguing, and really the facts of the case. So here you have a dual citizen. His name is Hamani is his last name, and he's a dual citizen of the United States and Pakistan. And he was under FBI investigation for alleged ties to terrorist activities. And the FBI obtained a search warrant to search his home in Texas. And during the search, they discovered trace amounts of cocaine, also a usable amount of marijuana, and a loaded Glock 9mm pistol. But what they didn't find was any indicia that he had any connection to terrorist activities or any other federal crime. Now, here comes the rub. So the FBI didn't just want to let him go. So they had to figure out a way to charge him. And, you know, judges kind of called this situation a gap situation where they kind of fill in the gap, which is they want to charge somebody with a crime. That Khrushchev once said, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Yeah. Or maybe that was his deputy, but something like that. Yeah. And here there is a little known statute. It's 18 U.S.C. 922 A3. It says this is the same statute that Hunter Biden was convicted under when he took a plea agreement for possessing a firearm while being an addict. He was using crack cocaine. Here, the government's theory is that Khamenei was a habitual user of marijuana and therefore a prohibited possessor because of his class. That is, the class of being a habitual marijuana smoker. And it's a new way, a new theory that the government really hasn't tried prosecuting anybody before. And this case originated out of Texas. And as soon as it was filed, his attorneys, who are very good, filed a motion to dismiss immediately, saying that the statute was unconstitutional, that Mr. Khamenei has a Second Amendment right to possess a firearm. He doesn't have any prior felony convictions, and he was using marijuana in his own home, but he wasn't even high at the time that the feds raided his home. So it'd be one thing if he was driving a car high on cocaine and he had a gun in his pocket, but it's something completely different when he wasn't high on anything, he wasn't drunk. He may have been a habitual marijuana user, but the government's saying that that's enough. But the magistrate judge said, no, I'm going to grant the dismissal. The government then appealed it to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they also affirmed the dismissal. The government then appealed it to the United States Supreme Court, and they've taken up the issue. Now, here's the interesting part, and that is that it is the Trump's DOJ that is appealing this case to the Supreme Court, meaning that they're supporting the idea that marijuana users, habitual users, should not be able to own and possess firearms, at least while they are habitual users. They do have a caveat saying that if you're no longer a habitual user, then the prohibition no longer applies. Now, the reason why this is interesting, obviously, is that the Trump administration, and I'm just saying this objectively, has been very pro-Second Amendment, opposing any type of law or legislation that would diminish somebody's rights to bear arms. And here, it's not the case. It's completely the opposite. And I did some research, and the NRA, the National Rifle Association, which always has an opinion on this stuff, They surprisingly don't.
Gone quiet, huh?
Yeah, they've gone quiet, and they're not going to file what's called an amicus brief, which is a friend of the court. So a lot of interested organizations, they'll file briefs to the Supreme Court telling them what they think should happen. The NRA hasn't indicated that they're going to do that, which is also fishy. So you have to ask yourself, why are they doing this? And I think one of the obvious reasons is that midterms are coming up, and the midterm elections are coming up in 2026. And the overtone of the Republican Party right now is they want to be considered the law and order party. And that if they can get behind at least one lawsuit that they know is probably going to fail in front of the Supreme Court, they can say that they don't support, all the gun rights stuff, the extreme stuff, and they do have limits. So I think that's probably the reason why that they're getting behind a case like this, which is most likely not going to pass. In fact, this might be a rare situation where you have both the liberal and the conservative Supreme Court justices with a 9-0 vote against the government.
Why even take it up then?
Again, I think it's just to show that they're the law and order party, and that they're not in bed with all their crazies.
But the Supreme Court didn't even need to take it. We've had 2 dismissals already. Why would they waste their time?
Very true. It is an issue that does need to be dealt with because the Seventh Circuit has ruled differently than the Fifth Circuit. So there's a difference in appellate courts. Also, there are 32 states that have laws on the books that prohibit people from possessing firearms for status offenses, or like you're a status, like you're a habitual marijuana user, or you're a habitual drunkard, or you have some mental health issues. So if that is your status, and those states have laws that prohibit you from possessing firearms. So the Supreme Court's decision in this case will affect status level offenses and the ability to possess firearms.
Has there been any indication of what the testing method is for a habitual user? Is it someone who I've partaken in it once, maybe, or how do they prove in court that this person is a regular user and therefore needs to have their Second Amendment taken away?
So there's actually case law about this, and in the 18th and 19th centuries, they have a whole slew of case law.
It always goes back to the 18th and 19th century, right?
It really does.
Just a terrible
It's
time.
crazy.
And great for other things.
Yep, dealing with what's called like the drunkard cases, where you had, alcohol was the drug of choice back then, and in those instances, the case law says that habitual is daily use. So if you are a daily user, you would be part of that class.
Josh, can I ask, back to the find the man, I'll find the crime thing. It sounds such a slippery slope. I guess in some cases you can see a way that it might be necessary. We need to hold on to this guy for some reason. We're pretty darn sure he's a bad guy. But boy, and then we're going back to 1800s for these cases, and how much of that twisting and turning of the law, round hole in a square peg, does it get us in trouble in the long run?
It does, and it really diminishes the trust that people have in their government, because ultimately citizens are supposed to be able to know what they're doing is wrong to begin with. And I don't think that the average marijuana user, even if they're a habitual user, would think that if I'm sober and doing nothing in my house that I'm now a prohibited possessor. I just don't think that that's reasonable. And for the feds to do that in this case, especially in such a public way, it diminishes their status. And you see that also with some other politically driven prosecutions as of late. And if you're going to challenge something to the Supreme Court, especially if you are the government, you better have some really good arguments coming here, because judges don't like to see these gap statutes coming in to fill in a crime that ordinarily would never be there.
Good point.
Josh, I want to ask you too, on the topic of prosecutions for marijuana, at least federal prosecutions, and you being obviously a ex-federal prosecutor in that, have you noticed a changing of the atmosphere any with how the Justice Department is going after some of those cases, especially compared to 10 years ago, where so many states obviously have laws that are much different than federal law. I know that this case in particular in Texas, a totally different stance in Arizona that we have, but just kind of what the atmosphere of the check is right now and how they're prosecuting these.
Yeah. So, good question. The Attorney General of the United States is the one that's responsible for giving the policy to the individual U.S. attorneys of each state. So in Arizona, we have one U.S. attorney, and the Attorney General has left it up to the individual U.S. attorneys to determine how they are going to enforce the marijuana issues in that particular state. But I'll tell you that the prosecutions for marijuana trafficking have substantially decreased over the last 10 years. And it's not necessarily because of the legalization of marijuana, although that has something to do with it. The reason why is that the Mexican drug cartels have switched from, backpackers bringing over bricks of weed to shipping fentanyl and primarily methamphetamine across the border. So you just don't have the volume that you used to have. And, the drug trafficking statutes usually are used to go after people that are associated with cartels, and, either up the chain or down the chain. But, that is their primary focus for national security reasons.
And I guess someone's done the math. I know you're not a pollster, but you'd think a lot of Republican voters would not be appreciative of this move. They have guns. Maybe they like marijuana. Why are you coming after me?
Well, especially in Arizona, where we certainly have a libertarian streak in our history, where, a basic Arizona feeling that we all have and appreciate is, whatever you do in your own home, as long as it's not really breaking the law, we don't really care.
You can take my gun from my cold dead hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's always been that Goldwater kind of feeling, whether
Right.
you're a liberal or not, or conservative. We've all kind of just respected each other's neighbors and not gotten each other's business too much. Unlike other states, I thought Arizona has done a really good job of staying out of that type of politics, where we still care about our community and our neighborhoods, and I just don't think we want that type of government intrusion into the household, especially when there's no allegation that Mr. Jimeni was actually high during the time of him possessing a firearm.
Well, we got to leave it there.
Welcome back to Fox 10 Talks, everybody. Hey, we have a special guest right now that I bonded with, was it a week ago or so?
Yeah.
Cassie Light works at Odyssey, and she is let me get this right, Sea Trek team lead,
That's
right?
correct.
What does that mean?
So I get to go underwater and take some of our guests that participate in that underwater and get to walk around. I also do all of the extra diving that happens around the building. We get in, clean, kind of make their homes a little bit better.
Right.
And then I even get to feed the animals that are in our Sea Trek exhibit. So I get to do training, I get to do feeding, kind of all that fun stuff.
Have you been to Odyssey, Trenton?
I have not.
It's amazing.
Yet.
No?
Yeah,
It's like
me
an
too.
ocean in the desert. It really is pretty amazing.
And you also have a specialty with handling news anchors underwater, right?
Apparently.
I believe we have some of that great footage, if we can roll it, of Brian Webb underwater.
Hey!
There he is.
I know that guy.
What
Wow.
manatee is that?
I know. How scary is that animal down there?
Wow.
So you taught us about the hand signals, and that's
Yeah.
important to let you know we're okay and
Yep.
everybody's okay. One thing that you did great, I told you already, is you smile down there, and it just puts people at ease because, even though it's not that deep, there are sharks roaming around.
Right. She can only shake her head so much and go, what are you doing? For you to understand, yeah.
So what's your goal when someone like me who's, a little nervous down there, what do you try to get across to us to make us feel good?
Yeah, so I love just being able to explain that none of these animals are actually going to want to hurt us. They're down there, they're very used to us being underwater, and even in normal out in the ocean, they are going to live in their normal habitat and do their normal things. Even when us as a diver might be in the water there, they're not necessarily going to want to come up to us. They are going to interact with us, and divers are taught to kind of keep their distance as well.
How'd you get into all this
Yeah,
with
good
diving
question.
and then, to take this leap where you're wrangling Brian? underwater?
Definitely had to wrangle him just a little bit.
Just a little.
Yeah, so I went to college. I did a major in marine biology, and actually that's where I got all of my diving certifications
Wow.
through as well. Actually, all the way up until a dive master, which is in the professional realm, so something kind of cool there. And then as I was getting ready to graduate school, I just kind of started applying to aquariums, zoos, anywhere and everywhere. Odyssey offered me a position, and I accepted it. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, so kind of up and moved to Arizona.
You're like
and-
the desert, right?
You love
Yeah.
oceans, but right.
Yes, everybody was kind of asking me that already, but it
great.
was so much fun. It's been a wild ride.
I bet. Well, the process of becoming a dive master, walk us through that, because it sounds very impressive and very far away from my expertise.
No worries. So when kind of introducing yourself to diving, you start with your open water scuba certification. So you go through, you do a whole bunch of different e-learning, you do pool sessions. So you get in the pool, learn how you breathe off of a regulator and how you use the kind of kit that you are wearing underwater and in a very nice, controlled, easy setting. And then you go out to the lake as we use it. We use Lake Pleasant, but you can go out to open water, the ocean, anywhere like that. And you do all of those skills and you learn more about buoyancy and everything like that. And then you start to progress. So next steps are kind of advanced open water. And then you go into rescue classes. So rescue classes is learning if an emergency happened, what can I do to help that person, and just staying calm under that pressure.
I was going to say, are you going to rescue the stingray or me?
In this instance,
Her
I would
degrees in
probably
marine
rescue
biology.
you.
Right, that's pretty easy.
You brought some props along. Let's see some of these. I actually fit into one of these, Trenton.
I don't believe
It wasn't easy.
Even though we have
It
video
wasn't easy.
footage, I think this might be AI
Cassie-
manipulated.
Cassie, tell us what we're looking at here.
So this is a wetsuit. So this is considered a shorty wetsuit. It is short on the legs, short in the arms. There's different styles. You can have long wetsuits. There's even different thicknesses. So this is only about a 3 millimeter, but in our ocean or in our Sea Trek system, that's typically about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Still keeps guests nice and warm.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, it's a wetsuit.
Wow.
And the helmet part was cool. I know this is. Tell me, what is this part of it?
So this is a super
My head fit in
tiny,
there.
yeah, it definitely fit. This is a super tiny version of the helmet. It's a little easier to transport as we're walking around with
see.
it. It also doesn't weigh 72 pounds
Oh,
like
wow,
it does
wow.
up
Good
on
point.
the surface. So this is our helmet. It allows us to see underwater. There's actually an airline, as you probably saw, those blue lines you see hanging out in the water. That actually plugs into the helmet, and that's what supplies you your air. So you breathe completely from
Yeah.
the surface.
It was
That's
so
awesome.
cool though. Like the water came up to here, but it stopped. How does that whole process work?
We like to say it kind of acts like a cup upside down in water. So if you've ever taken a cup, put it upside down and just stuck it right in water, that air stays trapped in it. Same thing happens with these helmets. And as you breathe, that water level is naturally going to kind of rise and fall because you're taking a little bit of that airspace out of that helmet, and then it'll fall as soon as you breathe back out.
So anyone can do this,
Anyone
right?
can do this.
Yeah.
So from ages 8 until honestly whatever age we can make them happen. We've had guests that are deaf, blind. We've taken them underwater. We do a little bit of extra safety with them and make sure that we have somebody designated to walk with them.
It's cool
I
down
think
there.
our oldest that we've had was 98.
Oh, nice.
Go underwater. So
How
super
cool.
impressive.
Impressive. And you brought along some. So stingray, the stingray that were down there could have bitten me. Is that what you're telling me? Because there's some teeth.
They have no
but
teeth.
These
Brian, do
teeth,
they?
they do have teeth.
That's
these
what's in there.
teeth, let me get them out.
Holy cow.
Oh gosh.
So
Wow.
elasmobranchs, so sharks, rays, and another group called skates, they actually lose over 30,000 teeth in their lifetime.
30,000.
Yeah, could you imagine constantly losing our teeth day in and day out?
No, I've had a few root canals. That was bad enough.
So basically what happens is with these teeth, they grow new ones all the way in the back of their mouth, and it acts kind of like a conveyor belt. So as those those new ones grow in the back, it actually pushes all of those forward, and those old teeth right in the front just fall out. So in our C-check system, we find these all the time.
bet.
Wow. Wow.
And these kind of piece together, so
They
That's
like,
so
they
cool.
kind of piece
I
together
see,
to create
Yeah.
a little
So when you gave me
Wow.
Yeah.
That's neat.
when you gave me the food and the stingray
Yeah.
came by, he or she sucked it up.
Yep.
I didn't feel any teeth, but so
Nope.
the teeth. That's later.
Yep. So these teeth are used mostly for crushing versus actually kind of shredding or puncturing the food items that they're getting. So this flat part is actually the part that would be touching the food. This ridged part is actually what is kind of connected to their gums or the roof of their mouth. So it's more of a crushing mechanism versus shredding or puncturing, anything
Gotcha.
like that. So I've gotten it where a stingray accidentally takes my finger. That's why we always suggest guests make sure that hands kind of stay nice and gentle, calm. We always have our hands right there to always help them out. But it's just a lot of pressure that it feels like.
Wow.
It's not really anything else.
What do you feed a stingray?
Yeah, so for our stingrays, all of our animals in Odyssey Aquarium, they get restaurant quality seafood. So we purchase it all, bring it in, all frozen, and then we prepare it each day.
They
So
eat
for
better
our-
than we do, Trent.
Right?
That's a fact. So have you been to our vending machines?
So our stingrays, they get shrimp every single day. And then we offer some other larger fish that we cut up. So salmon, bonito, we'll offer them mullet, a variety of other seafoods.
Yeah.
They eat pretty much anything.
Well, I think
would
everybody is,
say.
when they hear stingray, they're afraid of the barb.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so everybody kind of thinks Steve Irwin. The biggest thing with this is they're not going to use that mechanism. It is their last defense. So with our cow nose rays, they can swim up to 20 miles an hour. If they are spooked or scared, they're going to just take off. They're going to swim away. Other stingrays that are considered benthic stingrays, so similar to what our blue was, our tiny little stingray that I kept bringing up. He is a benthic ray or likes to hang out close to the bottom, whereas cow nose are pelagic rays who hang out in that middle water column. Blue hangs out at the bottom and he can just quick bury himself. He'll use his wings to kind of bury himself. That's another defense mechanism that they'll use rather than using the barb, because once they use that barb, typically it breaks off of their tail, and then they have to regrow it. So it's a lot of cost. We consider it costly for
Energy
them to
you've got to use.
have to regrow it.
What was there? Was the biggest concern in there? I remember I was kind of walking around and somebody's like, "Look behind you." Maybe it was you, like stepping on one of them, or
Yeah.
that shark that was hanging out at the bottom. I mean, is that the biggest concern? Maybe?
No, honestly, those animals, we condition them. We have animals or guests in the water all the time, so they're very used to us. Oftentimes they're coming more up to us. We like to say for us to interact or try to find food from us versus if they don't want to be around us, they'll swim off to the other side of the exhibit. We all stay as a group as we're walking around for Sea Trek. So it's really easy to just simply go to the other side of the system and away from all the guests underwater.
A whole seminar on you, Brian, before you came. Yeah. Here comes the fox.
They have an eel down there I'd like you to meet.
Wow, man, no way.
He's the one that we're supposed to like look at but not get too close to.
Yeah. So some of our animals, we consider them as no-touch animals. Sometimes it's just that, like with our sharks, they have really rough skin. It's called dermal denticles, so it's kind of teeth-like. And if you touch them the wrong direction, it actually cuts up your hand.
Wow.
We call it shark burn. In saltwater, just in general, it's not fun to have. It's kind of similar to what you would consider probably like carpet burn. So that's kind of why we ask not to reach out and touch them. Other animals, they're just not used to it, and it's not something that we are actively trying to condition them to be used to. So that's similar with our eel. She just isn't used to it. She likes to hang out kind of by herself. She's super picturesque. So she comes out. We're always trying to get pictures of her and have guests see her.
That's awesome. Real interesting because here in the production department, Brian's a no-touch anchor. We're still conditioning him to get used to human contact, but still no touch.
Trying to entice him with shrimp, get him out of his desk.
I'll work for shrimp. I'll work for shrimp.
Yeah, it's a process. If you come here this weekend, you'll see the whole thing.
Well, you're kind of living the dream, though, huh? I mean, that's what you wanted to do, and here you are.
Yep. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, do you have any advice for folks that are maybe thinking about getting into scuba diving and exploring the oceans? What do they need to do?
Yeah. So I would say, as much as Sea Trek is a very different experience than necessarily diving, you have only a helmet on versus all this extra material and kit and equipment. I would say it's really cool to get to see them get underwater and experience that world. And if it's something that is intriguing to them at Sea Trek, being able to go to a local dive shop, we have tons in the valley, and going and getting that scuba certification is really something that take that jump and leap and see if that's something they like.
It's a good start. You kind of like, oh, okay, I kind of like this. I get it. I get it.
You never know who you're going to see underwater.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
And meet someone like great girl like Cassie. Cassie Light from Odyssey.
So
Thanks
cool.
for joining us. Appreciate it. Had a good time.
Very nice. Man, we've been everywhere today.
We've been at outer space,
another show.
In the ocean.
Right.
We've been
New York.
We talked about legal cases.
And then
wiped
in court.
out.
Yeah. Then the pot really wiped you out. It's
the pod case.
Really happen everywhere.
That's exactly right. We're going to do it again next week.
Thanks,
See you, folks.